today's topic, I want to talk about living the integrated life. So I want to start by saying a recent conversation I had with my mom, actually. So 5 decades ago, her teacher could not even speak Mandarin properly. And now I'm the teacher. I have two bachelor degrees from the US, biology degree and a psychology degree. I got my biology degree is actually with honors, so I'm actually pretty proud of that. And then I got my PhD in psychology. And I believe I speak really well English, and I speak really good Mandarin. I even speak a little bit of Spanish. But I still sometimes feel very insecure because our students are just smarter and smarter. So this is like an effect we had in psychology we call the Flynn effect, which is basically every decade or so, because of all the technological advances and all these resources we're giving to our younger generation, they are just becoming smarter and smarter, which is amazing. My student Cindy, who just quoted a lot of AP psychology, which is what I teach, stuff, and she can quote those psychological theories and names better than I can. So students are getting smarter and smarter, so we should be happy about it. But on the other side of this is the fact that because everyone's getting smarter, it's just ever so much more competitive for our students to succeed nowadays. As a consequence, we often see in this school and with the younger generation, they have to work much harder. And so that begs the question, what if they want to have fun at the same time? So this is where my topics comes in, is the living the integrated life. We want our students, our younger generation, our kids to be successful, to work hard, to beat all the ever smarter children out there, but we also want them to be happy. So this is where integration comes in. When we think about the concept integration, we are thinking about the definition is to fuse, to connect, to unify a lot of things. In psychology, oftentimes we have the idea of memory consolidation. So we have all the information we have, and then it's in our mind, we integrate them, and that's what we have as our memories. What we're seeing right now, what we're hearing right now is also a integration of all our sensory information. So my best definition for this is basically integration is to have that whole, which is greater than the sum of the parts. So we want to connect and fuse different aspects of our lives together, and this is how we can live the integrated life. For our kids, for many of the habits you guys probably already have is, for example, when we are traveling, we would be not just traveling there, but we would also be reading a book, for example, at the same time. And if I want to take care of my personal health and also learn something at the same time, I would do an exercise called the plank. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. So while you're planking, you build up your core strength, but then at the same time, I would also want to listen to a podcast and learn a lot of new things. I actually picked up a lot of the things I talked to my kids in my psychology class while I was doing the planking. So this is all the things that it's basically when you have an integrated life, you increase your efficiency greatly. You basically can do two things at the same time. But it is not just about being very efficient in what you do, so you can build up your personal life, your health, and your professional life at the same time. Sometimes it's also about using the integration to understand things more deeply and having that new perspective. So this is what I actually want to talk about today. So all the integrated stuff is cooked up, so I can talk about so this is something, I'm going to use this as an example of how I developed the integrated idea. If you remember nothing else from my speech today, I want you to remember garlic. Okay, I was teaching ecology sometime. I teach ecology to my kids one day, and while I was explaining ecology, and thanks to Dr. Wenger, who had that similar idea with all the different species, they should have their balance. Okay, so we have a very similar. We are talking about the similar ideas, the biodiversity. We want to have all those different species, the predators, the herbivores, keeping each other's numbers in check so they eat all the plant, right? That's on the kind of like a global scale of the ecology. But within our own bodies, right? In our bodies, we have our digestive tract, which is also an ecology on its own. So we want to always keep the good bacteria's numbers up and all the bad harmful bacteria's numbers down. So this is when I started to do a little bit of more research. I was teaching ecology in class, and I was doing research on how I can improve my own gut health. Then I started realizing I need to take a natural antibiotic to help me get rid of a lot of the bad bacteria, and then I can bring good probiotics. Advertisement time. Okay, this thing is amazing. This thing is natural antibiotics. The allicin inside garlic, which is a natural antibiotic, can kill the bad bacteria. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term Helicobacter pylori. Makes your very horrible, gives you stomach cancer, among all other nasty things. Okay, this thing is a treatment for that. Okay, and I give this thing to not just my family, to my friends, and they are now like improving their health. All these conditions, like all these, I'm not going to mention the conditions, but it's improving. So that's antibacterial and antifungal conditions, and this thing, because it's have those properties, anti-cancer, antioxidant, so that basically makes us age more gracefully. So I call it the amazing golden elixir of life, and I discovered this amazing stuff because I was teaching biology. All right. So I do recommend you try that. Okay, but anyway, moving back to the idea of integration. So it's not just living a very efficient life. We combine different aspects of life, but it's also we gain new perspectives when we integrate things. A few more really successful examples, not by me, but by a really famous person. Integration, connecting two different things and creating a new perspective. If you put the British boarding school system and magic together, what do you have? Harry Potter. So, and J.K. Rowling, like, doesn't matter what people think of her these days, okay? I think she is a master of integration because in her book 1, she foreshadows events in book 7, okay? That's how, when you have integration at that level, you bring things together, and that creates a massive story. Another example I had is I'm teaching psychology, so I always use some very popular ideas to teach personality. The most popular personality things our students explore is the 16 personalities. This is basically an integration of like all the classical personality theories with MBTI and the Big Five theories. But the 16 personality website, if any of you have ever visited that, is a little bit different because people criticize it for not being a very serious science. But 16 personalities is amazing because once I do the test, it gives me a nice wizard figure with a wand and say I'm this personality. And that makes it very popular and kids really love it. So this is their integration, like, is making their personality ever more popular among the population. So and to the young generation. So I'm very grateful for that integration. And I also come up with this idea when I was in my PhD years of genetic algorithm, which is another amazing idea of integration. Basically, people have combined the idea of genetics, and they combine genetics with computer programming. They treat computer codes as genetic codes. They introduce mutation to these codes. They reproduce these codes with each other. They mix these codes together. They run those simulations, let them solve a complex problem for thousands and thousands of cycles. Just like real natural selection and like real evolution, the best solution basically emerge and present itself. So that is a really how integration helps us to combine and form really exciting new perspectives. So I encourage nowadays in this ever-changing world, when everyone is getting smarter and smarter, I really think we should be doing integration all the time to be both happy and successful. For our students, so I have two advices. So first of all, yes, when you're learning anything new, you should try to integrate by connecting all these maybe different perspectives together. That activates different parts of your brain and makes your brain remember all these things better. So you want to form that deeper understanding by integration. And the other really important aspect of this is you should never not learn something just because you don't think it's going to be useful to you at the moment. When I was like finishing my biology, degree. I already knew back then I want to have a PhD in psychology. So I was wondering, what am I going to do with my biology degree in 2010? And I had no idea of predicting 12 years later I would be teaching biology and using that knowledge to benefit my health and introducing me to this golden elixir of life. Okay, so that is not like, I really love Lenny's speech in the morning, and when she talks about all these uncontrollable aspects of life, and that is very true. So you never know when things are going to fall into place. That's the point. You never know when the things you learn now are going to be useful for you in the future. So a really key point of integration really is to accumulate as much as you can, build up all your arsenals. All these things you learn is the arsenal you can use later in your life. As you keep learning and you keep accumulating, doesn't matter if it's going to be useful at the moment or not. Just keep learning and keep learning, and one day maybe you can connect all these dots together and form a really integrated and wonderful new idea. So to close it off for our students, I really just have these two words, learn everything. Thank you.